ReZERO Season 3 is back with possibly its greatest episode yet, so let's talk about it. The episode starts off from where we ended the last episode, with Capella confronting Felix. Capella is as vile as she usually is. She transforms into Crush and begins tormenting Felix. Right before she can finish him off though, Crush seemingly attacks her with magic. This Crush isn't actually Crush but Anastasia in disguise. Last episode Priscilla said that Anastasia, much like Al, is incredibly secretive. This pays off this episode with her using magic for the first time ever, something that she didn't even do against Sirius. Right after Anastasia attacks Capella, she activates their trap, causing her to fall through the city hall into an underground area. As Capella begins regenerating after her fall, she is met by a very angry Aldebaran, thus starting probably the most unexpected battle this arc. Something interesting that Al tells Capella is that she should get out of here before he dies. With him being an otherworlder just like Subaru, I think this foreshadows him having an ability similar to Return by Death. Now let's get to the main attraction of this episode, the fight against Regulus. The battle continues as Reinhard and Regulus continue to engage each other, with Reinhard throwing Regulus through countless buildings. Regulus is infuriated by Reinhard's strategy, thinking that he considers him stupid. It's something minor, but I think it's incredible characterization that shows us how truly sensitive and insecure Regulus is. Reinhard then changes strategies and opts to throw Regulus into the water, or right after Emilia uses an absolutely massive Alhuma. The scenes of Reinhard fighting Regulus, and especially the scene of Reinhard throwing Regulus through buildings along with Emilia's Alhuma, are unbelievably well animated, probably the best ReZero has ever looked consistently. Despite Emilia's incredible Alhuma, Regulus remains unharmed. Right as he's about to attack Subaru, Reinhard gets Subaru out of the way, getting kicked out of the battle in the process. As Subaru wonders about Regulus' weak point, Regulus is infuriated. He declares himself to be the most complete and most satisfied existence there is. Regulus' constant appraisal of himself along with his self-view give us a great insight into his character, something that I'll cover later on. Sid's self-view pisses Emilia off. She goes on a long rant talking about how absurd Regulus' personal philosophies are, and how cruel his actions are towards his wives, her declaring how she hates Regulus' great development for her. Season 1 or early Season 2, Emilia probably would have been too naive to come to such a conclusion. As Emilia sees through Regulus' facade, he's infuriated. He goes to grab a massive amount of water, using said water as a weapon against Subaru and Emilia. Something to think about is that due to his authority, Regulus and anything he interacts with isn't affected by physical forces like air resistance, gravity, and water resistance. A minor complaint I have about this episode is how Regulus' attacks don't look as impressive as they were described in the novels. In the novels, it's stated that his attack with the water was like the city getting carpet bombed. I understand that the animators are limited. I would have loved to see him do more damage to the city. To escape Regulus' attack, Subaru and Emilia escape on the water by ice skating. The ice skating scene was one that many novel readers anticipated. While it didn't look like how I imagined it while reading the novels, it's not something that I mind. Seeing Subaru and Emilia skate on the ice to get away, Regulus follows them on the ice. While the scene of Regulus walking on the ice looks a bit wonky and this kinda goofy, I think it makes sense due to his authority. While walking on the ice, Regulus declares that every so often he sees people who think they are special. It's a minor line of dialogue, but I think it's a wonderful parallel to Season 1 Subaru, someone who thought himself to be special simply due to his status as another worlder. As Regulus follows them, Emilia lends Subaru Alice her spirit as she goes to engage Regulus. She aims for his vitals and attempts to end his bloodline, but her attacks are ineffective. Funnily enough, this causes Subaru to declare that even his balls are invincible, something that I found hilarious. To make the episode even more hilarious, as Regulus continues to walk on the ice, he slams into a wall and falls into the water. It looks like a scene straight out of Looney Tunes. While I don't want to look like the guy who's ruining the fun, another minor complaint I have is that they didn't make Regulus look intimidating enough. In the novels, Regulus gave off vibes that made you wish his credit score went down, while in the anime he's kind of goofy. That aside, as Regulus continues to rage against Subaru and Emilia, he attempts to obliterate them with a wave of water, something that Reinhard stops in time. As Regulus grabs another massive handful of water to use as a weapon, Reinhard tries to throw him into his own attack, something that fails at damaging Regulus. While I've seen some people complain about the water CGI, I think it's pretty good and it looks uncanny, which fits Regulus' authority. She mentions how one of his wives called him a little king, which is the translation of Regulus in Latin, by the way. It's another thing that's rather minor, but it serves to foreshadow his ability. Using that hint, Subaru deduces that the Archbishops are rule named after stars, which causes him to ask Reinhardt to shake Regulus's pulse to finally know the secret of Regulus's ability. As incredible as the fight was during this episode, I do have some minor complaints, especially regarding cut content. In the novels, it stated that Regulus used his breath as an attack to blow off Reinhardt's leg below the knee. Right after Regulus throws Reinhardt away, when Reinhardt comes back healed, Regulus declares he finds him disgusting for using healing magic. Reinhardt denies that, stating that he got healed by the lesser spirits. As for the Archbishop's names, I'll give you a better insight into that. For those wondering, it's something that Subaru mentions way earlier in the novels, but he ignores it until he fights Regulus again. All of the Archbishops are named after stars from our world. Sirius is the name of a star in the Canis Major constellation, and it translates to scorching, referring to her fire magic. Button Kaitos comes from the Arabic Button Kaitos, meaning belly of the sea monster, referencing the white whale, and Alphard is part of Hydra, the water snake constellation, referencing the great serpent. Alphard also means the individual in Arabic, which is likely referring to how the great serpent is the most unkillable of the great Maw beasts. As for Subaru, Subaru is the name of the Pleiades constellation in Japanese. The Pleiades are a group of 7 sisters in Greek mythology, being the 7 witches in ReZERO. There are also stars named after the Pleiades' parents, Atlas and Pleione, likely being Pandora and Hector in ReZERO. We haven't been told the reason for the correlation either. I think it's because there are otherworlders than Subaru and Hushin, and said otherworlder might be related to Pandora or the witch's call. Now let's get to Priscilla versus Sirius. As Liliana and Priscilla begin conversing with Sirius, her authority takes effect almost immediately on Liliana, with her wanting to talk things out with the Archbishop. After realizing that, Priscilla proceeds to French kiss Liliana, something that I won't comment on. Yuri beta side, Sirius begins summoning the citizens of Priscilla to assist her in her battle, seeing that Priscilla proceeds to pull out the Yang sword, creating a wall of fire to block the citizens. Priscilla then tells Liliana that the fate of everyone lies on her shoulder, or onto her throat, I guess. Priscilla telling Liliana to do her role is a wonderful callback to the very first episode of season 3, right before we get some more Liliana autism. As Sirius declares Priscilla to be her trial to overcome, they begin engaging each other in a beautifully animated and choreographed dance of sword and chain. Sirius declares that she wants to save Priscilla, and tells her that she has mistaken concealing weakness for strength, declaring that some peaks can't be reached without the help of others. This is the core message of arcs 3 and 4, so seeing a character rejects the message is pretty interesting thematically. Priscilla is shaping up to be a wonderful character so far. So much depth has been added to her throughout season 3. Priscilla rejecting Sirius's view on love is another bit of great characterization. Views on love are an essential part of all the Archbishops' characterization. From Betelgeuse's obsessive, unrelenting view of the love he held towards Satella, Regulus's fatalistic surface-level view of love that lies only on the faces of the women he likes, Capella's confusion on why his surface-level love feeds after the form changes, to Sirius's view of love as being united as one. It's incredible characterization that's always done in very little time. That aside, as they continue to engage each other, Sirius mentions Iris and the King of Thorns, something that strangely enough enrages Priscilla, and after credits scene, Sirius continues talking about Iris and the King of Thorns, Teleus' Rosenite, and Matigazzar's Gambit. According to the author, all of these names are names of stories in the world of ReZERO. It's interesting how Sirius figured out that their names would infuriate Priscilla, and something even more interesting is Priscilla's connection to such stories. Going back to the Regulus fight, Reinhardt confirms that Regulus's heart is indeed not beating, something that clues Subaru into his authority. Regulus grabs Reinhardt by the neck. He begins to rant on how he only entertained Reinhardt due to his kindness, right before launching his ass to the fucking moon. A minor complaint I have is that the scene of Reinhardt getting thrown into the moon is kinda goofy. That aside, something interesting that the author says is that what Reinhardt saw on the moon is a spoiler, which is in my opinion something that pokes holes into the idea that the world of ReZERO is actually flat. Right after Regulus throws Reinhardt into the moon, Subaru begins planning on how to engage Regulus. Something that's kinda funny and cute is how when Subaru tells Emilia to lend him her ear, she tells him to make sure to give it back. Cute Emilia moments aside, Subaru begins using Regulus's rhetoric against him, clowning his ass and telling him that he got cornered, and how he'd die from embarrassment if he didn't know how he'd lose. Seeing a smug Subaru push Regulus's buttons is honestly rather cathartic. When Subaru tells Regulus he's figured out his authority, Regulus claims that no one can understand him, something that further is parallel to an earlier Subaru. In the novel, Subaru monologues about how Regulus craves attention and approval from others, how he wishes to crush all he despises, about how pitiable his heart is and how limited his tolerance is, how he constantly needs to brag about being the most satisfied existence, and how he needs others to affirm his existence. It's another bit of interesting characterization for Regulus. He's the kind of person who wallows in self-satisfying rhetoric, apathetically rejecting reality and change to upkeep his pitiable heart. It's something that makes him strangely similar to a stereotypical isekai protagonist in my opinion. After Emily's diversion work, Subaru stands on top of a shattered building, having some crazy aura in the process. He continues telling Regulus about how he's figured out his authority. He declares it to be Lion's Heart, which is Regulus' name in Arabic by the way. The ability to stop time for one's body, like hitting the pause button in a game, to which Regulus' reaction gives it off that Subaru has been right. Another bit of interesting characterization is how Regulus' authority represents his rejection of change. Regarding cut content, a pretty major cut has been Subaru's parkour scenes, something that I found pretty disappointing. All of Subaru's cool scenes during Arc 5 have been cut, which makes them seem kind of incompetent, which is a massive shame in my opinion. Overall, despite the cut content, this episode has been incredible, and in terms of animation, it's probably the best ReZERO has ever looked. The fights this episode have all been incredible. Is it the best episode in season 3 though? Personally, I can't agree. I still prefer episode 7, but that's because I'm a massive Subaru fan and Subaru-centric episodes are my favorite throughout the series. So having this episode over 7 is understandable in my opinion. If you liked this video, please comment, like and subscribe since this helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you like my content, check me out on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok since I make content there. Along with that, this video and the earlier video thumbnails have been made by my friend Atshult on TikTok, so please go check him out. Again, if you liked, please comment and subscribe, and thanks for watching.